On a Thursday morning in the spring of 1983, a man named Robert Levinson picked up a phone inside a secure government facility in Washington, D.C. He made one call. He received one reply. He wrote 3 words in the margin of a classified document sitting on his desk. And then everything about what happened next became one of the most tightly guarded secrets in the history of American intelligence. That is not where this story begins, but it is where the story breaks open. Robert Levinson was born in 1948 in Brooklyn, New York. From the outside, he looked exactly like the kind of man who disappears into the machinery of government and is never heard from again. Not because anything dramatic happens to him, but simply because that is what those men do. They serve. They collect pensions. They retire to Florida. They play golf. Levinson did not retire to Florida. He spent 22 years working for the FBI as a special agent and later as one of the Bureau's most respected experts on Russian organized crime, Iranian money laundering, and the dark financial networks that moved dirty money around the world without leaving a trace. He was the kind of agent who could sit across a table from a man who had helped launder hundreds of millions of dollars for a foreign government and get him talking inside 20 minutes. He understood how criminals thought. He understood how governments thought, and more importantly, he understood how those two categories overlapped, the vast gray space where state power and organized crime became indistinguishable from each other. When he retired from the FBI in 1998, he did not stop working. He became a private investigator. He took consulting contracts. He built a client list that included some of the most powerful corporations on the planet, companies that needed someone who understood how to move through the dark corners of the global financial system without getting lost, and somewhere along the way, he began working for the CIA. This is the part the United States government spent years denying. The official position, repeated in congressional hearings, press releases, and diplomatic communications, was that Robert Levinson was a private citizen who had traveled to Kish Island in Iran in March of 2007 on a private business matter. He had gone there to meet a source related to a cigarette smuggling investigation. He was not working for the government. He was not on any official mission. He was simply a retired FBI agent who had made a bad decision. That was a lie. What actually happened, confirmed only through years of investigative journalism, leaked internal government documents, and the agonized accounts of his family, is far more complicated and far more damning. Levinson had been recruited by a group of CIA analysts to conduct an unauthorized intelligence gathering operation. The arrangement was entirely off the books. No official sanction, no approval from CIA leadership, no legal protection if something went wrong. A small group of analysts had essentially hired a private contractor to do work that the CIA itself was not authorized to perform, gathering intelligence inside Iran through personal sources that Levinson had cultivated. Over decades of work on Iranian financial networks, he flew to Kish Island on the 1st of March, 2007. He checked into the Mariam Hotel. He met with a source, and then he vanished. For the first several years after his disappearance, the United States government said almost nothing publicly. His family was told to stay quiet. His wife, Christine, was given carefully managed briefings that withheld far more than they revealed. Government officials spoke to her in private with the careful, practiced language of people who know the full truth and have decided that the full truth must never reach her. The CIA analysts who had recruited Levinson were quietly removed from their positions. Some received formal disciplinary action. The Inspector General's office investigated and produced a classified report. The report was buried. Meanwhile, Robert Levinson was somewhere inside Iran. In 2010, 3 years after his disappearance, a package arrived at his family's home in Coral Springs, Florida. Inside were photographs. Levinson appeared in them wearing an orange jumpsuit, the kind associated with Guantanamo Bay detainees, a deliberate visual message. He was holding a handwritten sign. He looked thinner. He looked frightened, but he was alive. The photographs came with no return address, no ransom demand, no explicit claim of responsibility. They were designed to communicate one thing and one thing only. We have him. We know you want him back. And the terms of this arrangement are entirely ours to set. No group ever officially claimed responsibility for holding Levinson. Iran repeatedly denied any knowledge of his whereabouts. The American government publicly insisted it was doing everything in its power to secure his release, while privately acknowledging that they had almost nothing to offer in return, because officially, Levinson did not exist as a government asset. He was a private citizen. You cannot negotiate a prisoner exchange for a man your government has never admitted to employing. In 2011, a video emerged. Levinson appeared on screen, visibly aged, speaking carefully. He appealed directly to the American government to secure his release. He said he had been held for 3.5 years. He said he had done nothing wrong. He looked at the camera with the expression of a man who has had a very long time to think about the difference between what governments say and what governments do. The video was analyzed by intelligence agencies. The background was examined. The metadata was stripped and studied. Every frame was processed for hidden information. Nothing definitive emerged about his location. What emerged instead was a picture of a man being used as leverage in a geopolitical game that neither side was willing to acknowledge publicly. Iran could not admit holding him without confirming the very intelligence operation his presence on Kish Island had implied. America could not negotiate his release without confirming that they had sent him there in the first place. Both governments were trapped by the same secret, and the man at the center of that trap sat in a cell somewhere and waited. In 2013, the Associated Press broke the story of the CIA's unauthorized operation. The carefully maintained fiction that Levinson was simply a private businessman collapsed almost overnight. Congressional leaders demanded answers. The CIA was forced to acknowledge, for the first time, that Levinson had been working with agency analysts, though they continued to insist the operation had never been officially sanctioned. The analysts who had run Levinson were gone from the agency by then. Some had retired, some had been quietly pushed out. The institutional distance between the CIA as an organization and the specific people who had deployed Levinson without authorization was carefully maintained. The agency expressed regret. It paid Levinson's family a settlement of approximately $25 million. It continued to say, publicly, that it was working for his return. He never came home. In March of 2020, the United States government announced that Robert Levinson was believed to have died while in Iranian custody. The exact circumstances of his death were never confirmed. The exact date was never confirmed. The location of his remains was never confirmed. Iran continued to deny holding him at all. His family rejected the government's conclusion. His wife and children maintained for years that they had received information suggesting he might still be alive, and that the government's declaration of his death was at least partly motivated by a desire to close a chapter that had become deeply embarrassing to American intelligence. Whether Robert Levinson is alive or dead, one fact sits at the center of this story that no official statement has ever adequately addressed. He was sent into one of the most dangerous countries on Earth by people who had no authority to send him. He was given no protection. He was given no extraction plan. He was given no official status that could be invoked on his behalf if he was captured. He was an old man with a lifetime of knowledge about Iranian financial networks, walking into a hotel on an Iranian island, completely alone, carrying nothing but a cover story and the assumption that the people who had asked him to go there would find a way to bring him back if something went wrong. Something went wrong, and the people who had sent him could not save him without revealing what they had done. So they said nothing. They filed papers. They attended hearings. They expressed deep concern. They deployed the full vocabulary of bureaucratic regret, while the man they had sent into the dark sat in whatever room they had put him in and waited for a rescue that was never coming. That phone call in 1983, the one at the beginning of this story, may or may not be the specific moment Robert Levinson's fate was sealed. The exact sequence of decisions and communications that led him to Kish Island in March of 2007 will likely never be fully reconstructed. Too many documents remain classified. Too many people who know the truth have too many reasons to keep. But the shape of what happened is clear enough. A man with exceptional skills and a lifetime of dangerous knowledge was recruited for a mission that could not officially exist. He performed that mission. He was captured, and the institution that had used him protected itself by denying that it had ever used him at all. This is not a story about one man's bad luck. It is a story about how governments operate when the distance between official policy and actual practice becomes so wide that people fall through the gap. Robert Levinson fell through that gap. The gap is still there, and somewhere in the machinery of American intelligence, there are files that contain the full truth of what happened to him. Files that remain classified, that will likely remain classified for decades, that may never be released in any form that allows his family to understand completely what was done and why. The phone call was made. The words were written in the margin. The plane ticket was purchased. The hotel was booked. And a man who had spent his entire life serving his country walked into a building on a small Iranian island and was never seen again. That is what governments do with the people they cannot protect. They forget them, or worse, they remember them and say nothing.